Hello, everyone. I am Doria, Dame Doria, also known in the past as DC Cordova, the CEO and owner of Accelerated Business Schools for Entrepreneurs, the Money and You program. And I don't know why I feel like I haven't seen you for weeks and weeks. I know it's only been a couple of weeks, but so much has happened. How many of you is life picking up speed just for me, or is it happening for everyone? Raise your hand, put a little signal. I mean, it's just like, there's something happening in the universe that is picking up speed. And I am very, very happy today, and because we're going to have someone very special. We met Rex Sikes in Clubhouse through the One Percenters Only Club, in which we actually, that room, we're going to want to go there afterwards. I'm going to look it up and put it on the chat room so that after we're done with this, we can go and join them on the other room. And then, of course, I started hearing him and listening to him. And obviously, the guy really knows a lot, but it was like more with this tone of understanding and of, we used to have a word in the 70s, which was a grok, which grok means to have such a deep understanding, the essence of something. When you grok something, it's beyond understanding. It's like you get it at every level, at every cell. And so he had a way of being able for us to be able to grok the information that we have seen around the world. And he does have quite a bit of experience. So, when you went to Fridays with Doria, you can read that he has 4 decades of experience of helping, I would say, tens of thousands of people transform their lives and their minds. He's a master trainer of NLP at DHE, which I'm going to ask him in a minute to tell us what that is. Accelerated Learning and the Law of Attraction. And he's the founder of Idea Seminars. And he has appeared, he does seem familiar. And I thought, where have I seen him before? Where he has appeared before millions in acting in films, television, radio interviews, and consulting for attorneys and news media, offering commentary on famous trials and celebrities. And so Rex has devoted his life to helping people live life on their own terms and create their own best lives. So with that, can we all unmute and just really welcome Rex? Can we all just unmute and say, woo? So happy to have you here. Thank you. And of course, we are going to have more people that will be watching this replay. It's summertime in America. In other places, people are working away and it's their Saturday morning, but we're welcoming back. We haven't seen Paolo Tiberi in a long time. And so thank you, Paolo. He's been flying through the universe. And before I begin to ask questions of Rex, I want to make sure that you all remember that you can put all your information on the chat area. This is what we call in our live Money and You program. We have the network table. This is our network table on virtual. You are welcome to put your information down, where you're located, what support do you need, what information you have, how you can add value to others. It's okay for you to be doing that. I do prefer and would recommend that you listen to Rex quite a bit. And at the end, you can go ahead and save the chat and you'll have that available for you to read at a more quiet, peaceful time. So with that, Rex, hi, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Being with you is a fabulous experience always, and I'm so grateful and honored to be here.
Thank you so much, Rex. Rex, I know that you and I have had a lot of conversations in the One Percenters Only room, and then we have also been in some of your own rooms in Clubhouse, and you were with us with the One Percenters leadership a few weeks ago on Fridays with Doria, and had the opportunity to speak for a little bit. But there are certain things that you have said that really piqued my interest. It was like, whoa. And then I went and thought about it, and I'm not going to tell all our friends right now what I went through on the other side, but I love your conversation that there's no such thing as self-sabotage. Can you share with us what you mean by that?
Absolutely. Now, I want your viewing audience to know that we are having a terrific thunderstorm going on right now, and it's very loud here. And if I suddenly disappear, I'm probably okay. I haven't been struck by lightning, but the power might go out. Yeah, you see, here's the thing. We are an amazing spirit body. I mean, we're born, we use a rental vehicle, you know, with skin and bone to move through the world. We have a mind or a brain, and we think thoughts, and we create these behaviors, you know, from that. But from the time that we show up on the planet, you know, maybe there's a little bit of genetic baggage that comes along, but primarily we're pretty much an open slate. And from the time we're in the womb to the time that we're outside the womb till we're about 7 or 8, we are inundated with messages from the world around us, both wonderful messages and not so wonderful messages. And we're inundated with tones and sounds and looks and expressions and actions like slamming things or pounding things or people yelling or people worried about money and how they don't have enough at the end of the month. And we absorb all of this and we learn it, and it wires in. There's a scientific principle called Hebb's laws, that neurons that fire together wire together. So the more something is repeated, so if you're living in a household filled with lack consciousness, you're bound to pick that up. It lays down neural network or neural pathways in your brain. And that's what you then begin to live from. You adopt that as your beliefs, your thoughts, your values, your principles, and your practices. But here's the thing. Your subconscious mind is an incredible learning machine. That's all it really does. It learns, it absorbs, and it does so to keep you alive, because its primary mission is to keep you surviving and to stop you from doing anything that it deems a threat. So in the old days in the jungle, you know, when there's lions and tigers and bears, or in an urban area where there's, you know, violence and things like that, the reticular activating system, the brain itself is alerted to what is possible danger so that you can avoid it, so that you can fight, you can flee, or you can freeze. But again, it goes back to your brain learns to do everything. It learns to be stuck. It learns to be upset. It learns to be angry. It learns to be happy. It learns to be horny. It learns to be loving. It learns to be kind. It learns to tell lies. It learns to tell the truth. It learns to read and write. It learns to eat and feed itself and crawl and walk and do all sorts of things, from the most basic things as a human to driving a car or programming a computer or becoming an astronaut or a champion athlete at the Olympics. It's all learned. So when people say my brain is sabotaging me, what they don't understand is the brain can't sabotage you. The brain doesn't, the subconscious mind, your brain, doesn't have within it the possibility of sabotaging you, because all it is processes and electrochemical impulses that go off and are wired together as sequences or patterns of behavior that are laid down and that form our habits of thinking and acting and being and behaving and feeling. So all we're doing is living from a program, essentially, from being conditioned, and it's not trying to kill you or hurt you or harm you, it's trying to keep you alive. The difference is the conscious mind is the aspect of the mind, because it's all just one mind. We divide it into different, different minds because of the tasks or because of the operations that are performed. But the conscious mind is there to plan, it's to direct, it's to it can kind of pay attention to the intuition, the messages from the subconscious mind. It's there to communicate with others. So there's a limited number of things the conscious mind does, and an infinite number of things that the subconscious mind does. So the conscious mind says, I want to, for example, I'm a smoker, I want to stop smoking. And then 3 weeks later, they pick up a cigarette and have a cigarette. They go, oh, see, I've sabotaged myself. Or they want to make money, but they don't. And they say, well, I sabotaged myself. Well, you didn't. All you're doing is your program is continuing to run the way it was designed to run. And it's doing it because that's what it does. So to say I'm sabotaging myself is really to kind of slap yourself up and to not appreciate the majesty and magnificence of your mind and your being. And once you learn how to harness that in friendship, with respect, with acknowledging that you know what, I'm a learner. And since I learned all these stupid, dumb, useless, horrible things, I can learn all these wonderful, great, incredible, fantastic things because that's what I do. And in fact, I've done some of that already. So here's an interesting thing, and I talk about it in my book and my programs and my online courses and everything. And that is the thing that gets most people a problem, or where most people get stuck. You know what that is? It's a thought. It's a thought, a mental packet of energy. That's all it is. It's electrochemical impulse. It doesn't exist anywhere except as an electrochemical impulse within the mind, whether the mind is inside you or outside you, it exists inside the mind. And it comes into this conscious awareness. And so we're thinking thoughts constantly, day in and day out, and they will run on and on and on and on and on, regardless of whether you want them to or not. And they will be triggered by certain events, and they will be mostly the same thoughts you've always thought. There's very little new thinking unless you really work to create new thinking. Otherwise, it's mostly patterned, it's mostly habitual. We operate from our habits far more than we realize. So when you're driving down the highway and somebody cuts you off, your first reaction is to swear at them or give them the finger or whatever. That's a reaction. That's what the brain has learned to do. And so it replicates it every single time until you reprogram it, until you take charge of it and say, I don't want to do that anymore. Instead of giving somebody the finger, yelling at them, I want to be calm, or I want to be loving, I want to be kind. Instead of racing after them and trying to beat them down with my car, I'm going to drive slowly and wish them well and bless them. Anything that you learned to do, you can do. So what happens? People learn to feel bad about themselves. They think, I'm stupid, I'm fat, I'm ugly, I can't make any money, nobody likes me, I'm going to eat worms. And this goes on and 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 on in a variety of forms, in and out of every day. And they decide, I'm going to start thinking differently. I'm going to say, I love myself. So they go, I love myself, and they don't feel it. Well, of course they don't feel it, because their habits are to say, I hate myself, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I'm ugly, I don't like my, So they've done that a lot. And in order to change that, you have to do the new thought a lot. And that's all you really have to do. Because what happens is you trade one thing for the other. I use it this way. I go, look, there's dog crap and diamonds. Dog crap, diamonds, dog crap, diamonds. Choose. Which do you want? And a lot of people choose dog crap. It's just what they do. And they live from dog crap. But they could choose diamonds. Now, the point is this. It's difficult at first. And so I use juggling as an example, and I'll use this example and I'll stop talking. If you wanted to learn how to juggle, you got to realize that it's going to be difficult if you've never done it. You're going to drop balls. And so if you get mad about dropping the balls and not being able to juggle, you won't probably stick with it. But if you realize that dropping the balls and it being hard or difficult at first is a normal part of the learning process, then you'll continue to do it. I mean, think about it. You learn to read and you learn to write when you were a child. In fact, before you learn to read and write, you learn to speak language without reading a book, without taking a seminar, without doing a course. You learned it from modeling the people around you, from hearing what they call phonemes and the babble sounds and the different sounds. And kids went, and people would do the same thing to the kids until the kids started to fashion words. And guess what? They learn to appreciate and understand grammar in whatever country or whatever nationality, whatever language they're born in. They naturally absorb and learn the rules, the syntactic rules for speaking a language when they've never done that before. This is how incredible you are as a learner. And this is what you've done. And you learn to walk, if you neurologically are intact and you can walk. From crawling, you learn to read and write. You took a pencil, if you're old enough, a big pencil, and they put it in, with big lined paper, and you had to fashion the letters and try and keep within the lines. In the United States, they called it, printing. And so we learned to print. So we'd write C, and we'd write A, and then we'd go T, and we'd go cat. And while we were learning to do that, we were learning to identify those words in books, Johnny saw the cat, Sally chased the cat, kind of thing. And then once we learned to print, they said, okay, that's cool, but what you really need to do is learn how to do cursive. And then they taught you how to write the script thing. So you didn't forget how to print when you learned cursive. And this is the beauty of the brain. But what you did was you added a new skill in, so now you could do two things. So you're really a magnificent being, an incredible, wonderful spirit human that has all sorts of talents and all sorts of resources. And most people live so completely beneath that because they go, I suck, I don't know what I'm doing, nothing ever works out for me. They have these repetitive thoughts. They think that they sabotage themselves, when in fact, all they need to do is to learn to treat themselves well. So when it goes to juggling, you just have to do it long enough until it gets easy. And the easier it gets, the more you can do. And the more you can do, the easier it gets, because the more you do, the more you become capable of doing. And the more capable you become of doing, the more you can do. So it has this momentum to it. So personal transformation is actually quite simple, but it is literally trading the dog shit for the diamonds and saying, I'm not going to live the dog shit way anymore. I'm going to start living the diamonds way and pursuing that. And then you have to repeat it consistently, correctly, and commit to it for long enough until it becomes a habit. And I will finish with this. They used to say that a habit was formed or began to get formed in 21 days. Now current thinking is at 67 days to begin to make something a habit. Hear that again, to begin to create or make something a habit. So that's 67 days, that's more than 2 months in order for you to begin to make something a habit. So you have to stick with it for at least that long for it to begin to wire in, for you to lay down these new neural pathways so that you can do a new behavior. And guess what? People who have strokes are learning to do all sorts of things. People who've been paralyzed are learning to walk. People who can't speak are learning to speak. It's just amazing what we can do. So never, ever, ever sell yourself short.
Wow. Wow. Hey, you guys, let's unmute for a minute and just go, wow. Did you guys get that?
Wow.
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 Am I the only one that
Wow, phenomenal.
I'm going to add something. I want to add something. And that sabotage is a concept from psychologists to keep people stuck. Psychology is a beautiful thing in many ways. And at the same time, it also fosters codependency. It also fosters a disbelief in one's ability to actually change without help. It fosters the people to stay in a stuck mode of stuff that happened to them decades ago. So, and this is really crucial to understand. We're talking right now, you and I right now are in the only moment there is in all of the universe, and that's the present moment. The future doesn't exist. It may in subsequent, different dimensions kind of thing. And the past, you could say, maybe does too. But essentially, I had a sip of water a few moments ago. I'm not drinking water now, right? So my sip of water is a memory. It doesn't exist anymore. It was something that happened moments ago, but it's gone. Right now, I'm talking to you. What happened to me when I was 3 years old is gone. What happened to me when I was 21 is gone. What happened to me when I was 40 was gone. It's gone. It's done. It's gone. Stop dragging it around. Stop living from the past. People go, I'm a survivor. I had this happen. I had that happen. And what they do is what I just said before. They perpetuate the very same thinking or the very same stories that keep them stuck by reliving them and retelling them and rethinking them to themselves. And if they want to change, they can stop doing that, stop the dog shit, and start doing something else. And I'll say one more thing. I promise I'm going to stop. You cannot be fixed. You are not a machine. You're not a computer. You are a living human spirit, right? So yes, they can repair a broken bone, but you're not a mechanical anything. The computer metaphor is great for certain things, like we program our mind, but they can't get in there and take something out and this and that and the other thing. You go, okay, now you're fixed. Self-improvement is a myth. You don't really improve anything. You let go of former conditioning. You let go of the stuff that isn't useful, the stuff that holds you back, that keeps you stuck, that you don't want anymore is learning to release it and let go of it and move on in a different direction. So it truly requires people to understand that if anyone is a victim, it's because they're choosing to be a victim and they don't know it. And that's why I'm here. That's been my mission for 40 years, because what you're not aware of runs the show. So if you don't realize you're doing things that keep you stuck or that are harming you or hurting your friends and your neighbors, your family, then somebody goes, hey, wake up. Now you have the opportunity to make that change. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 40 years.
Wow. Everybody, wow. Come on, you guys. Am I the only one?
Whoa.
Wow.
Whoa.
Wow.
Wow. Definitely wow.
Wow. There's a couple of people I want to go to. Marsha Martin, you're one of them. Give me 1 minute though. After I heard you say that, remember, I'm the one that it went. Now, how could I have not heard that before? I'm sure that there were other people that might have said that, but I never heard it until a few months ago, right? And then I was thinking, oh my God, that takes away the thought that we're victims of our own selves. It was like, I remember just getting stuck on something. And it was like, God, I hate it when I sabotage myself. And I could almost hear this little voice saying, I didn't sabotage you. It's like I learned that. Where you mad at me? You're the one that taught me that. Somebody taught me that. I almost could hear that, but I wouldn't let it come in. But then after I heard you say that, and then of course, I went into a room and tried to have the conversation with someone. And because I didn't have it completely in my consciousness, because I have had the concept of self-sabotage for decades and decades.
Well, it's been taught for decades and decades. I mean, it's been perpetuated in workshops and in therapy sessions and in programs and psychological, counseling rooms for decades. But it didn't always exist.
Yes, and I also know, Marsha, what say you? I mean, I'm sure you have a few things to share about this. Marsha, go ahead.
This is my night off, enjoying. I saw that Rex was going to speak, and here I am. Well, I think it's wonderful, and the thing I love about it mostly is when Rex says you don't improve, you're already perfect. It's just releasing, and it's kind of like Michelangelo said, the sculpture's already there. I'm just releasing it. And the Beatles, Paul said that too. They asked him how he could write so many songs. And he said, I just go to the place where all the songs live. And then I release them. I let them come through. I like to say it like, there's those three faces. There's the person we pretend we are because we're afraid we're something else that's less than who we really are, which is the third face. And when you let down your pretenses or your inauthentic self or your programs and all of the things that Rex is talking about, and you face the fears, which is the practice and the looking at and the letting go of, then you run into your real self, which is totally perfect. So hallelujah, Rex. Really wonderful to hear you go, one more thing and one more thing and one more thing. So I love that part of it too.
Oh, cool. I appreciate that. Thanks so much, Marsha. That's really, really, very generous and kind of you. And I loved everything you said.
Now, one of the things also, Rex, I have heard you say this, and we all love Tony Robbins. I mean, I met Tony when he was 23 years old. I remember him and him being in the backyard in Carlsbad. That's near San Diego, for those of you that don't know. And he was as charismatic as he is now, except he was 23 years old. And I met him right after he had lost all his weight. And Marshall Thurber sent me, because I was the adventurous one in the team. So it's like they heard about somebody teaching how to walk on fire by using NLP. And so I said, I'll go. I've always wanted to walk on fire. And then I came back with raving reviews, of course, about him. And we enrolled him in Money and You. We put him on his first day of playing to go and do a big event. I can't remember whether we sent him to Hawaii first or to Colorado first, where we had pretty big networks. And he was talking about NLP at the time, and he was giving them credit, and he was, sharing the different modalities and all that. But I love that when you say, Rex, that he mastered four modalities. There are many in neuro-linguistic programming. And we see that he took it to a whole other level. I mean, it's like just his destiny was to do this. So Tell us about those modalities. Tell us about how somebody can just take four things out of a dozen things and create such an amazing impact. And too bad that he couldn't say that it was NLP, because he was
Well,
forbidden to say that. But go ahead.
Well, think of it this way. How many channels do you get on your television set?
Hundreds. Yeah,
How many do you actually watch?
correct. Maybe 10, 12.
Yeah. So the same thing with most NLP, and where NLP gets diluted is because everybody's trying to add something else to NLP. Like, I have another tool, I have another distinction, I have another something. And sometimes they are meaningful and sometimes they truly aren't. But Tony mastered the ability to create rapport, to communicate effectively with people, to anchor states of consciousness, and to future pace those. And what he did, so he could gather, he knew public speaking, so he could gather and rivet an audience with his communication and rapport skills, anchor them to wonderful wanton states of passion and desire and his programs or whatever it might be, and then future pace that if they didn't have it, it would be horrible, and if they did have it, it would be great. And he built an empire with that, and to his credit, because he was able to use the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And because he did it over and over and over again, he got really good. You don't have to know everything about everything in order to succeed in life. You just need to master some basic principles and practices that get you some leverage and get you some mileage, and you can do incredible things with it. And Tony's one of those. Now, Tony and I came up around the same time. I mean, I'm older than Tony, but he was there when I was there. And here's something that but I don't know if everybody else was. There was no Joe Dispenza when we were coming up. There was no John Assaraf. There was no Joe Vitale or Lisa Nichols or Bob Proctor or any of these people. Any of the people who are popular today, who are big superstars. Tony was there. Jim Rohn was there. Not long. I mean, at that time, Zig Ziglar was there. I was there. And some other people were there, some other keynotes in the NLP field and in the personal development field. But all of the people who are very popular today really came after us. I mean, we were the people who laid a lot of the groundwork for a lot of these other people who now are building careers where we hear them using our words and our stuff and our practices and our principles that we were developing and synthesizing and teaching at that time. And it's really, in some ways, it's a really beautiful thing, because the work gets extended. They're able to reach people that I could never reach single-handedly. So the more people you have doing the work, the better it is for the humanity or humans or the world or the universe at large. So, everything evolves, but it is really different today, where if you get on the internet, it just seems like there's just tons of everybody doing everything, everybody's done everything. So you got to kind of be careful about the internet. There's people going, here's the one that cracks me up. You can be a certified law of attraction coach. Now, who certifies you in that? I mean, right? Did God go, or the universe go, yes, here's your certificate. You've manifested well. I mean, who comes up with this stuff? And not only that, but you can do it for $7. So, I mean, there's just a lot of weird stuff that goes on. So you want to be wary of the weird stuff, and you want to go for the people who actually add value and know their stuff and walk. And for me, more than anything else, if you can't walk your talk, if you're not the same on stage as off stage, if there's all these skeletons, and we all have skeletons, but if there's horrible skeletons and all these kinds of things, find a candidate that you resonate with, who truly exemplifies the kind of lifestyle that you want to live, the kind of money you want to make, the kind of person you want to be, the kind of compassionate giver you'd like to be, and model them, because there are plenty of people not to model. But Tony, with his skills and the way he built his empire, was worthy of modeling that aspect of Tony. And that was that Tony got really, 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 really good at some very basic skills and went miles further than the rest with it. So that's to his credit.
So that's
and to the people who helped get him out there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was, we knew quite a few of them. They were part of the team, building his per chart and all the things through the years. And anything, Marsha, you have some history with Tony.
I mean, get this, there was no Jack Canfield. There was no.
Not yet, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not saying that this is, I'm just saying that when you and I were coming up in the Esalen days and the 70s, 60s and 70s, none of these, I mean, they may have been around and, but they hadn't broken through yet.
No,
So,
Jack was a high school teacher.
right.
In 1979, he did Money and You, and I can't remember the year when they got together with Mark Victor Hansen and came up with, for Chicken Soup for the Soul.
And
Yeah.
I'm so glad they did. I mean, that's the cool part
Yes.
about it. But I mean, people, the universe gives us what we need when we need it.
Thank you. Marcia, anything you'd like to share? This is the Rex and Marcia show.
Apparently,
Just kidding, but go ahead.
I love it.
Hi, Rex. Well, I ran Tony's business and organization, as you know, in the mid 80s for about 2.5, 3 years. It was when I left Est. I think every major person who wanted to build an empire called me up and asked me to please come and consult them.
I bet.
John Hanley from LifeSpring, I helped him build LifeSpring, and Tony, of course. And
I forgot to mention him. So thank you.
yes, you're welcome. All of those early guys, I was around during that time.
Yeah.
With Tony, it was very interesting because he had a lot of excellent people helping him that didn't really get acknowledged.
Oh.
And that was a sad thing. I think he could have been a little bit better about that, for sure. Not just in neuro-linguistic programming and not just in authoring his books, but in so many things.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. But it was a really interesting thing for me to be involved and help train him and I helped take his organization national, and I helped him launch Unlimited Power. So I was right in the middle.
That was you.
in the middle 80s. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
And I also brought in the people who were my mentors, Harry Margolis, and some of the legal greats in tax attorneys and all of that.
Did you help assemble the people who wrote his books?
No, I didn't. I helped him market it and take it so that it was launched. He would, the people that wrote his books, I knew, like Woody and all of those people. But, and I did help him, though, do his offshore financial structure for his whole organization.
Well, and I don't want this to simply be about Tony, but in the 80s and 90s, when Tony was really, making it, and when Gussie Renker did Unlimited Power, people would come to my workshops because they would look at Tony and they would somehow find me. They would go, well, you were there before Tony in the neurolinguistic program. So he was great for my business. And a lot of NLP people didn't like him because they felt that, and again, we did cross-crawling in our workshops, which everybody said, this is almost like, it's of the devil, you're dancing, what are you doing? And we did laughter meditation. And they go, what are you doing? You can't laugh, and this is serious stuff, and you're treating it. Well, so with Tony, there are a lot of purists who go, he doesn't teach pure NLP, and now he's renamed it, and calls it something else, and he adds the diet, and he adds all these things. And people would call us up and go, what do you think of Tony Robbins? I love Tony Robbins. He's great for my business. And they just flocked to us. They just came to us because they were fans of Tony. And they said, I see you in the lineage prior to Tony. So I want to learn from you because I learned from Tony. And, so I'm, Tony, I love the fact that there's a Tony Robbins because, whether directly or indirectly, and we haven't communicated in some time, but, which is a little disappointing because I said, hey, I'd like you on my show. He said, I'll do your show. And then I haven't been able to reach him back to get him on my show. But at any rate, he, he's contributed in many great ways, and God love him for it. And God love you for yes. Making, because what is it, whether you like Tony or not, or whether you like LifeSpring or not, or whether you liked Est or not, people transformed. And that's truly, what matters. And that's, that's the thing to me. It's about transformation. And so I don't want to be hanging on to, crap about people that isn't useful. I want to celebrate all this stuff that's really, really exciting about personal transformation and help everybody get uplifted.
And ultimately, you have to create an economic engine. I think what Marcia was talking about, it's the fact that people really get all excited, the shiny object. And then, without realizing that behind every star behind every best-selling book, behind all success. There is a whole other team. There's a whole group of people that are making sure that it happens. And that is one of the myths, that people really need to understand, and that I think that we're coming on stronger and stronger in sharing with people that, I was just even having a conversation with someone, and they were talking about a lineage of people that were going to do this big summit. And they wanted like just big names only. And I was sharing about, well, I have these other people that I can bring in that you've never heard about, but without them, that wouldn't have happened. And he was like, no, we really need to have like big names. And it was like this big name thing, and it was like very, very interesting, because I feel that creates a little bit of confusion out in the market, out in the world, particularly when people are watching how to create success, how to create prosperity, how to create a world that works for 100% of humanity. You really, and I'm happy for all of you who are here, and for those of you that are watching the replay, that you continually use this platform to educate yourselves, because there's quite a few people that we have brought here that has changed people's lives in an hour and a half. And you never heard of them before, but they are the doers. They're the ones who are making sure that it happens. So with that,
I agree with you on that. I mean, some of the most profound learning and transformation I've had have been from like a bum on a bus stop bench. It wasn't some famous person. The famous person is a shiny object. It's brand awareness, it's identity, it's the marketing machinery that makes up, the capitalist world, and everything else. I've always said, and people never got it, I go, I'm a puppet. I'm just a puppet. And they go, what do you mean by that? I go where I'm told to go, and I do what I'm told to do. So they go speak here, I go speak there, go do this, go do that. And I've always been that way, because I've always been either agented or managed in show business or, in speaking. I would love to have had a Marcia then and now do what she did for Tony, because I mean, that is how you get your message out. It takes other people like Marcia and like you to bring people to the forefront, because the people who are on the stage typically don't have a clue what to do, because they're too busy being on the stage delivering a message. And that said, it goes back to not all shiny objects are worth going to. Some are, and then some aren't. Some are just shiny objects, and they got the brand awareness, and people flock to them, and they're kind of like an empty suit. And others are power packed and fully transformational. So it's up to the consumer to be savvy. You have to educate yourself and not just be gullible. I have said this in the NLP field now for 30 or 40 years. Don't just, because it says NLP doesn't mean it's NLP, because somebody said, you can do this, research it and find out, who you're buying from.
Anyway, I have a little in with Marcia Martin. If you want to know anything about her, just email me. I know her.
I tell you.
Don't you be telling everything now.
I am well connected. So thank you so much. So, these are some of the tools, we were going to talk about some of the tools that have shaped the transformation industry. We were talking about that. Tell us a couple of others, because I want our audience, our network, to just keep being educated. So as soon as they have awareness, they'll be able to see, oh, that's interesting. That's what Doria and her guests were talking about. So what are give us some of the other tools that kind of have disappeared. They're not even named anymore, but they are in the industry. Anything else?
I mean, a lot of things, first off, the discovery method has disappeared, where people come into a program and they have to unpack what's going on. They have to discover it. They have to actually be curious enough to approach the material from different facets. And a facilitator can be very good at doing that, or can be very poor at doing that. But the idea is that you're eliciting learning from the person. You're not teaching them anything. You can't really teach a person, but you can elicit a learning response from people where they go, I want to learn that. And when they do that, then they start to acquire the skills or the behaviors, the thoughts, the feelings that are necessary. So that's my job, is to be a catalyst for that, to help people to transform themselves, not by pouring stuff into them, but allowing them to be opened up actually allowing a transmission, like an energy transmission, like Shakti put, the kind of thing where you just get out of your own way and you come to the learning clear and clean. So the Zen story of the student with the teacup, and the master pouring it in and it's overflowing and the student goes, wait, it's full. And the master says, yeah, go empty your cup and come back when it's empty. It's really an important part about learning and acquiring new skills and behavior. People that come into workshops and go, oh, I read that in his book, or I heard that on his audio tapes, or I was in his last workshop and I heard that. Wait until you hear this story. They are inadvertently shutting their minds down instead of opening their minds up, because they're waiting for certain moments to appear that they then get kind of like these, warm and fuzzy sensations like, wow, I remember that story. That was really great. Instead of staying open, because the same story can be taught, many different principles or practices can be taught using the very same story, depending on how it's told or how it's emphasized or where it's placed inside of a training. So what I try and do with people is just to let them know this. You can transform by releasing, which can happen overnight if you actually release overnight. I use Scrooge as an example, where he goes to bed, has a horrible dream where 3 ghosts visit him, and he wakes up the next day going, whoa, Merry Christmas, everybody. After years of being a miser, he had an instant transformation. He scared the crap out of it and said, I'm never going to live like that again. I'm living a new way. The other way that we change is to recondition ourselves the same way a bodybuilder or an athlete does. They start a program of transformation. They say, I'm going to sculpt my body in a particular way. I'm going to learn to broad jump, or I'm going to learn to swim, or I'm going to be a high diver. And they practice it until they get really, really good. They master the basics, and they keep practicing and practicing and practicing and mastering the basics over and over and over and over again. And if you go to a golf tournament, or you go to a basketball game, or you go to a football game or a baseball game, you don't see people doing trick shots. You don't see them doing fancy advanced things. They're throwing the ball back and forth. They're putting a little bit, they're kicking punting the ball. They're just doing the basics to warm up, because the basics are the very thing that are the foundation for your success. And if you don't master the basics, it's like building your house on sand. You don't build a wonderful mansion, on crappy soil or swampland. You need to have the right ground so that you can build the right foundation, so that you can build the right mansion on top of that. The basics are that foundation. So what are the basics? Learning to master your thoughts. Master your thoughts. And you can do this. What you focus on is what you get. What you think about, you become, which you've heard that before, or what you think about, what you focus on expands, or energy flows where attention goes. There's lots of aphorisms, there's lots of phrases that are there to remind people, hey, what you think determines what you get. And what you think repeatedly creates your reality. And what you think repeatedly is the basis of your beliefs. So you don't have to go through and dig out your beliefs. You don't have to find them. In my book, In Life on Your Terms, I have exercises where you can do that, but you don't have to do that. You just have to know, okay, I have a lot of crappy beliefs. So what do I want to believe instead? What do I want to believe? I want to believe that I'm a person of worth. I don't have to know that I think I'm a person of no worth in order to think I'm a person of worth. I don't have to think, wow, I don't believe money is good in order to think, wow, money is great. I just need to say, what is it that I want to think about? That would direct my life in a positive direction. It's kind of like I'm in a boat. I don't have to say, I got to go to Africa before I go to Asia, before I go to Australia, before I go to America. I don't have to go back to something, all I have to do is set, where do I want to go? And then move in that direction. And psychology's got us digging through crap, going, here, let's dig up all this soil to find the buried treasure. And meanwhile, all you're doing is digging through crap and digging through soil to find the buried treasure. And the buried treasure is there all along. It's not hidden. It's right there. It's you. You are the treasure. So what do you want to believe? You say, I'm a person of worth. So now you have to start repeating that more than you think anything else. So if you become aware of yourself going, I suck, I'm stupid, you have to stop, become aware of it, go, in the old days, I would have said that, but now what I think is, I am a person of worth. I can learn to do anything. I enjoy myself. I love my life. I create magical moments. You just think something different. You replace the old with the new. And if you're old enough to have had a rotary phone when we called locations instead of people and programmed all of our numbers into the phone. You had to know them in your head. So you learned do you remember your old house number? I remember the house number that I grew up in. I remember my friends' phone numbers because I dialed them when I was a kid, the kid across the street. I still know his number. I know my home. When you changed locations, like you moved to another house or you changed your phone number, you for a while started to dial the old number because that's what your brain was used to doing. You don't have to kick yourself in the ass because you dialed the old phone number. You don't have to say, I'm broken, I'm dialing the old phone number, I'm sabotaging myself. No, that's what your brain learned to do. But if you keep dialing the new phone number, pretty soon the brain will go, oh, you don't want the old one, you want the new one. And so now you know the new one. You didn't have to forget the old one. I still remember my childhood phone number. I mean, all these years, and I don't have a rotary phone, and there's no reason for me to call it. And I could, and probably somebody would answer, right? But it wouldn't be the people I expect to answer. So the point I'm making is that we have so many silly ideas that pervade the self-help industry, the personal growth, and it is, a lot of it happened in psychiatry, with the DSMs, because they had to come up with more disorders and diseases in order to profit by making pills and stuff for people because according to the FDA, you can only cure a disorder or disease with the right medicine, right? So, or the right approach. And guess what? Here's where you should know you're being bullshitted all the time. You got to take these pills. Will these pills help me? Yes, but with therapy, they're better. Why am I taking the pills? If with therapy, why don't I just do the therapy? Oh, you can't do it with just therapy. You got to have the pills. Oh, well, now somebody's selling you stuff you don't need. Now, I don't say this to alarm anyone or people who are psychologists. Some of my best friends, I was a counselor, therapist, in Los Angeles back in the day and things like that, and a hypnotherapist and all this. But, you got to know that we have been in the last 40 years, if you look at how the field of psychology has permeated every aspect of our society, our news, our media, our courts, and the funny part about it is they will say, expert witnesses can be called in, but they will have differing opinions. So we can call in this psychologist, that psychologist, and testify in a criminal case. And yet it's just the weight that you want to give them because nobody really knows whether what they say is true or not. So it's take charge of your life. You have to take charge of your thoughts. And when you do take charge of your thoughts, you can begin to take charge of your feelings. And when you take charge of your feelings, you can take charge of your thoughts. And when you take charge of your thoughts and your feelings, your behaviors begin to change. And when your behaviors begin to change, you start to get different results. But it begins with you making the decision that I'm going to go to New York, or I'm going to go to Florida, or I'm going to go to Australia, and then moving in that direction. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to keep doing it with enough baby steps in the right direction to take me there, consistently, repeatedly, correctly. I'm going to condition myself, and then eventually you get there. And just know, if you were sailing into any of those places, it's not a straight line because you have to tack against the wind. So it's not a direct line of progress. If you're juggling, you drop lots of balls. Get over it, because that's part of juggling. And part of becoming enlightened is to have unenlightened moments so that you can appreciate the enlightenment when it occurs. And guess what? You're already enlightened. You're already enlightened. Just don't act like it.
Okay, everybody hear that? Stop acting like you're not enlightened. Everyone clear? Say, let's all unmute and go, hooray, amen.
Amen.
Amen to that.
Amen. See the light, Rex.
Amen. Yeah.
Amen. Amen.
And I'm not saying that some people don't have a serious struggle with those concepts. They sit there day and night going, what do I do to get enlightened? That's all part of it. I mean, that's all part of it. There's so many different approaches, and some of the more aggressive, like meditative approaches, very active physical approaches of therapy and things like that were designed to get you to be cathartic, to release it, to let go, and to everything. But to demonstrate that, no matter what you did, it wasn't going to add anything. You would try and try and try and try and try and try and try, and then you finally give up and you go, oh, there it is. But it's when you gave up, not all of the doing.
Thank you so much. I can hardly wait till you come to Money and You. I really do, because people like yourselves just love it so much. Marshall Thurber, and actually Marsha, I before Money and You was the leftovers of a business school for entrepreneurs. And Marsha was in there too, back in 77, 78, adding this, adding that, she's been all over supporting, right?
I wish I would have done it back in the 70s. I mean, that kind of thing. I mean, we
Yes.
met a lot earlier, all three of us. But I mean, I do. If but the world is what it is, and the universe is
You
perfect.
meet now. We're
meet
still
now.
looking good.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Great.
so one of the things that happened in the Money and You program is a combination of all these things. And Marshall, the man who created it, he has been around recently. He's been healing himself, going through some health challenges, and I've had the opportunity for the first time this year on July 8th. I got to celebrate my anniversary of when I received all the work 36 years earlier. So it was quite a special day for me. And we were having this conversation about how he got about, all the different masters that he learned from and then we all learned from. Originally, of course, he was inspired so much by Buckminster Fuller. And then, of course, he wanted to know all about left and right brain teaching techniques, Georgi Lasanoff. And then he got really interested he actually read 25 books related to neurolinguistic programming. That's when we went looking for Tony. We didn't know you then, Rex. And then he also got interested in Edward Deming, the productivity genius, that put, productivity circles on the planet and put Japan on the planet.
Exactly.
In the sense of, being, Japan products made in Japan were so inferior. And then it was like made in Japan was the best thing. And then, of course, then there was Ilya Prigogine.
Never-ending improvement.
Yes, Edward Deming. And so it was a combination of all these things. So that's why I really would love for you to come sometime and just attend, because the experiential programs that, I keep Marshall is still in awe that I still went back to the program in 1982. And it was, yes, there are certain things we have updated. We have put a couple of new games in and all this and that. But the core of it, and it's because it's generalized principles and it's this mastery that he created. And I would love for you to come along. And we are doing one in 3 weeks, you guys, in San Diego. We're almost sold out. I can only have 50 people in the room. So make sure you go to moneyandyou.com and learn all about it. But I'm always so curious about the history. And for those of you that haven't seen, Marsha, I think we've done 1 or 2 programs with you, right? Fridays with Doria. So they can go to the replays. And Marsha, we had a whole conversation about the evolution of the industry, right?
Mm-hmm. We did.
And so I would love for
Marshall Thurber, though, before Bucky.
I'm sorry?
Speaking of Marshall Thurber, before Bucky, before all of that happened, because that was around 76, 77, 78. Yes. So 1971 is when we started S. And by 1972 or 3, probably 73, Marshall joined my guest seminar leaders program in S and came every night. And then he had the idea to start Hawthorne Stone. He started Hawthorne Stone after he did the guest seminar leaders program. And he used to come to my training Wednesday night. And then on Saturday mornings, he would train Hawthorne Stone agents, all the things he learned Wednesday night. So, and then from there was Accelerated Business School, and from there was Bucky Fuller. And I mean, it's just amazing how everybody developed and evolved and where we all came from and what we all did.
Well, Bucky Fuller came into our lives because of in 77, because of the Hunger Project, because that was the best year of my life, as far as I'm concerned. And I have had some amazing lives and years. And so thank you so much for that. So what I want to do is I just want to share a couple of things with people, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A because I know that people really want to. And I've already shared about Money and You next in 3 weeks' time. And then also remember, you can always go to moneyandyou.com and download the Business Success Model book. That's still a little book. It's really good. It's something that I wrote quite a few years ago, protecting the brand, and that's what I did it for. And one of these days I'll redo it, but it's still good, which is the basis of actually Money and You, the Business Success Model. And then I also want to make sure that next Friday on the 13th, that you do come to the Ho'oponopono prayer. I had all these people that asked me again to do it. It just, the world is still needing Ho'oponopono, right? So it's at 9 a.m. California time, and it's pretty late for those of you in the Asia Pacific region, but know that I include all of you. And I'm going to do it from right here on Maui, from the slopes of the Haleakala crater, which is such a beautiful place. So it'll be 6 a.m. for me and 9 a.m. for you in Asia Pacific. So I also wanted to make sure that you remember that we will continue with Fridays with Doria. I mean, we have people do write to me and say, don't stop, I'm watching the replays. And, we've been doing them for a year and a half. It's been a while. We started in April of 2020. And, there's a part of me that wishes all of this were over, and it's not over. So what I just want to plead, I'm going to write a new book, and it's called Begging, the Secret Element of Successful Negotiations. Begging. When all else fails, beg. Leticia, you can unmute us. You're laughing so hard. But tell me if all of you having begged in the process of negotiations one time or another, including with God, right? When we're negotiating, please, God, right? I feel like, remember that movie, Roger Rabbit? I love that. Remember Roger Rabbit? You guys, if you haven't seen that movie, you must watch it. Remember him, please. Anyway, I'm begging you all and your friends to please do whatever it takes to stop this pandemic, okay? It's a freaking global pandemic. This is not the flu. This is not a cold. And just imagine, okay? Just imagine the level of coordination that it would take for everybody to have this conspiracy that this thing has been made up. That requires for every doctor, every nurse, all these people, millions and squillions of people would be in conspiracy to lie to you or to me. The US government is made out of people. And you guys, please, particularly it's like I'm begging people now. It's like, please, whatever you need to do within yourself, if you don't want to have the vaccine, then go ahead and lock yourself up and stay in there for as long as you want to. But please, the rest of us that need to do whatever we need to do, because this is not going to stop unless every single person takes responsibility. Go ahead, Rex.
Can I add something? I would say this, I not a very popular position perhaps, but I think it's a gift of the universe. I mean, I truly think it's an amazing thing. It is not the suffering or the death or destruction, but it's as the universe expands, the beautiful thing about the universe is it expands, but while it's expanding, there's also entropy. It's also chaos. So there's this outward growing, and then there's this falling off, and so people always say, well, how can good and evil exist? Well, the same way that the universe expands, while entropy is happening, it's essentially the principles of cause and effect. So the pandemic happened now, and it's just a great reset. It's a great awareness generator. And it's sad that there are, people wake up when they wake up, and some people don't wake up in this lifetime. But it's designed for so many people to realize all of the inequities that we've been supporting for so long, and the lack of compassion and lack of humanity, the lack of giving and kindness and generosity and love, and the difference in access to healthcare and to resources and to cash and to capital and to, and so it's all been highlighted. And I always think I was really impressed when we had the first lockdown. who complained the most? The corporations. Why did they complain? Because their workers weren't at work. And without the peon workers, they couldn't be rich capitalists. So they need the people to work, but they don't pay the people enough to work and reward them the way they do. They reward the CEOs, but they don't reward the average worker or give them living wages or help them live abundant and wonderful lives. And maybe that's going to change through all of this. Maybe, what we're going to learn is, guess what? We can all have what we want, and we can all keep each other safe and healthy. But I agree with you, because it does take an awareness. I have 3 family members right now with COVID, and it's a serious thing. And I've got lots of friends who have passed away as a result. So I don't take it lightly at all, but I do think it is the universe saying, people, wake up, people.
Yeah, there's no question that it's a game changer, and we're still in the middle of it.
Right.
And I was just remembering that when we started a year and a half ago, there was such a panic about it. And so that's how we started Fridays with Doria. It was my beautiful friend, Dr. Vijaya, that said, oh, I love being on Fridays with Doria and friends. She's the one that created the name, right? So all I'm doing is just that I can go into a whole other, the light side of it and what's happening. And the truth is that the technology of the vaccines have changed, though. It has changed science, medicine, but most people don't realize that. And so more than ever, what we want to do, we either have facts or opinions. So I'm just asking all of us to just do our part. Like I have in my Facebook, it's like we are all responsible for what happens next. And so personal responsibilities more than ever. I'm just begging. I'm doing my part of begging.
You're doing a great job.
I'm begging because I feel that whatever I need to do on my part, and then, and for people, and they are whole countries. Chris was just
you're absolutely correct. People thought the steamship that Fulton created was of the devil. They thought, and when the light bulb was made by Edison, and nobody wanted it, they go, I got a kerosene lamp. What do I want a light bulb for? When the car was invented by Ford, they went, I got a horse. Why do I need a car? They had to market these ideas, these inventions to people in order to get them to accept it. And I think the same thing now with vaccine and not just the vaccine. It's not just having the vaccine for me. It's the idea that you are responsible for somebody next to you, that what you do has an impact on someone else. And that's the marketing that I think really needs to say, well, take care of your own health, but make sure you don't cause anybody else harm. And let's live together, as healthily as we can. So I love what you're doing. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Begging. We all begging. Anyway, so with that, and then let me see, am I forgetting anything else, Connie? Oh, how can I forget my beautiful Letitia Wright? Speak a little bit about your beautiful, all the homeless children that we are always supporting. Dr. Wright, we always give her a couple of minutes to speak of her beautiful humanitarian. Go ahead, Letitia.
Hi, thank you, everybody. Well, we have, I work with Stand Up for Kids. We have a gala coming up next month. And so that's a fundraising gala. And what we're doing right now is we are actually housing kids, some of the older teenagers. We're putting food baskets together because we still have a lot of food insecurity for our kids. And we're working on that. Homeless children looks a little bit different than adults. They always talk about homelessness in adults, but you have to remember a lot of those adults have children with them. So if you are living in a car, you're living in a motel, you're living with other families, 2 or 3 families in the house, that is considered McKinney-Vento homelessness. And that's the homelessness that you do not hear about. I used to teach an after-school program right before COVID, and I came in at from 2 to 4 p.m. to teach my class. The class I taught was entrepreneurship. And most of the kids, we had a program where we brought in food. I told the kids that it was second lunch and that entrepreneurs needed to eat a lot of food because their brains were using a lot of energy. That's how we got past the girls that were, that's the age where they start to have, body issues and don't want to eat and want to be thin. And I would tell them, oh, you got to eat because you're an entrepreneur and it's for your brain. So we would get past that. And, beautiful kids, but almost 100% of that class had not eaten until I got there at 2 p.m. How are these children in school all day and going through school with no food? Like, that just amazed me. And we weren't doing crazy, expensive meals. We were doing, these kids loved just having peanut butter and jelly. Like, we're not talking about a lot of things. So that's what I support, homelessness for children. And so when you go over to Adopt a Homeless Person, when you go to that website, that's what you're putting your money into. It's going directly for programs that go directly to kids, directly into programs that are feeding children. Thanksgiving, we give them fully cooked meals. We give their families fully cooked meals. All the kids have to do is say, we want a meal, and we will send it to them. Why? Because if you're living in a motel, you can't cook. Everybody, there's not missions in every community. There's no place for them to stand in line everywhere. And parents are afraid. They're afraid many times to reach out for help or say they can't do this because they think maybe somebody's going to come and take their children away from them. So there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of insecurity going on right now. And that still needs a lot of support. So if you have it in your heart, I think we as entrepreneurs, we do that. I'm just that person. If there's somebody on the corner on the freeway with a little sign saying that they're going to need to feed their kids, I do give cash. I don't worry about whether or not they're going to use it for drugs. I tell God it's between them and God. They can figure it out. I'm here because I'm blessed and I'm going to do it. And I also call my guy and say, hey, where are you in town? Come and get off the freeway. There's a kid standing here that needs some money, and he comes and he gives some money too. So that's how we do that. So I thank you guys who have supported in the past. It is an ongoing project that we're developing. And thank you so much for this time. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And then, of course, maybe later we're going to go ahead and have Dr. Vijaya, who will be coming in, and she will talk about, the 40 people the 40 families that she supports. And and I just want to say, Dr. Liddy, anything you'd like to share? How are you doing, Dr. Liddy?
Hello, mi Doria. Thank you, everyone. Dr. Wright, I wanted to just support you in terms of saying, are you working with the big food places like Costco, BJ's, because they are very generous with regard to these types of issues. So if you're working with them, fantastic. If not, I'd like to connect you with some folks that I know at the corporate level there that'll send boxes.
I would love that. I love that connection because we have the older kids between 18 and 24 that we are putting into apartments, and so we do need the bigger boxes.
Perfect. Let's talk about how we're going to get them consistently because they're going to throw that food out anyway. So to them, it's great for them to send it out to these types of causes. So we'll work together and get that for you. So okay. Mr. Rex, I wanted to ask you a question, sir. And it's simple, but yet I think the answer might be a little more complicated than I can think of. The number one search that people do on the internet with regard to personal development, studies have shown, is how do they become more confident? And I am shocked every time I read this report. So I'm like, you got to be kidding me. We are not beyond the confidence game by this point, because there's so many programs out there that are teaching about self-confidence, yet that is the most searched term, is how do I get more confident? And I'm wondering if you could share some thought as to why that is. Why aren't we more confident? And what is it that's happening incorrectly, that we're coming out of an educational system where we're not confident about the things that we want to accomplish?
Oh,
so I welcome you.
Beautiful question. Truly, it's a beautiful question. I can teach you to be confident like that. Confidence is easy. Confidence is easy. Competence takes more time. In order to become competent, you have to have experience. You have to do trial and error, and you have to get, past all that in order to become competent. And if you get competent, you also will feel more confident as well. Confidence without competence is kind of bullshit, really. I'm confident, but what you want confident to do, what I think you want to be confident to do, say, I can learn to do anything. I can learn to be confident. I can learn this skill. And while I'm learning the skill, I will grow in my awareness of confidence and in my competence. They should go hand in hand. It shouldn't be one or the other. I think the reason why confidence is one of those things is because of the conditioning process that I spoke of earlier. We are conditioned to feel less than glorious. Our advertisers put out constantly that, this was Edward Bernays. This was a whole field of PR. If you understand, that was Freud's nephew who started, PR, public relations, because he originally called it propaganda, but to turn a need-based society into a want-based society. So at one time, if you needed a tractor, you bought one. That wasn't good enough for the corporate world. They wanted you to want more tractors so that you had more tractors, just like the 2 cars in the driveway and the 4 color television sets, and to live, bigger and better than the neighbors. So, think about it. I mean, we turn on the TV every day, or you drive past billboards. We got flaky hair, bad skin, ugly teeth, yellows, this, smelly pits, wrong brand clothing. We hang with the wrong crowd. We don't drink the right coffee. So we constantly get inundated with how we are not good enough unless we do certain things. And so the message that people get over and over and over again, and what they do not get in school is rewarded for learning how to think appropriately and to feel appropriately and to behave appropriately. All the educational system tends to do right now is say, here are the things that we've deemed important. You need to know math and our version of whatever the correct societal version of history is right now as deemed by us. So, that's rewritten and whatever. Here's English and poetry and whatever. And you learn deadlines in college, and you learn, college was useful for me in the sense that I learned to study. I learned to hit deadlines and be sure that I did it, but it didn't do anything in terms of adding to my confidence or adding to my abilities or adding to my, my overall self-esteem or self-image. And that's what's lacking in college or in school in general, because what people are interested in is, can they do a paper and pencil test? Are they good at regurgitating or recalling information? And, I do a training called the Mastery Loop training. And essentially it's this: whenever you learn, because I'm big on whole brain learning, accelerated and less enough and everything. Whenever you learn anything, there's that approach stage, or what we call unconscious incompetence. You don't know that you don't know, like you don't know that you can't ride a bike. You've never seen it. You're unaware of it. And then one day you see somebody riding a bike and you realize, I can't do that. I don't have one. I don't know what it is. I can't do it. You become consciously incompetent. So maybe you get a bike, and then you get on the bike and you start doing it. And for a certain period of time, you're now consciously competent. You talk yourself through it. It's like when you learned to drive and you had to do all these things. You go consciously competent, conscious competence, and you talk yourself through it. And that's where most of us are in life, really. And that's why the law of attraction for people is a problem, because they're constantly in the conscious competence phase. But you need to graduate to the unconscious competent phase, in which these behaviors, these successful thoughts, successful feelings, successful behaviors become habits. They become reliable and automatic, and not something you have to think about. So when you learned to ride a bike and you talked yourself through it, and you learned and you fell down and you had all these things, and then one day you got on a bike and you rode over to a friend's house and you didn't even think about how you got there, and you were riding with abandon and you're riding with fun. That's when it becomes more automatic. And then the more you ride, the better you get. So that's why, they say, like, once you ride a bike, you never forget. You maybe haven't ridden a bike in 40 years, you can get one on it, and you may be a little, concerned because you haven't ridden a bike in a long time, but you'll be able to ride the bike if you just stick with it for a little while. So you wire in that stuff, and our educational system doesn't wire in good self-esteem or good self-image or confidence and competence. It just wires in here, what's the capital of Arizona? What's 2 + 2? And that's because so much of our educational system is based on monies given by the results of standardized testing, and where grants are given and things like that, as opposed to actually training or teaching our students, our children and our adults, to be successful human beings in life. That's not something that people teach.
So I tell you what, thank you so much, Rex. I just wanted to complete the announcements, but that was a great question.
Well,
So
if you're making announcements, may I make one?
Of course, you go ahead, Rex.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to step on you, but I do have my book, Life on Your Terms, and you can get it at Amazon or at my website.
I love his book. It's so easy to read.
Thank you. And you can get it at my website, which is rexsikes.com. My name, you can see it spelled there, but it's one word with a .com. And I do have programs right now that a lot of people are jumping into right now. The Ultimate NLP Home Study Program is one, and we've talked about NLP, and I highly recommend it if you're interested in that, so that you can learn it. It's the basics and beyond. And the Law of Attraction program, Change Your Thoughts and Transform Your Life. Two very, very powerful signature programs. But go check it out. Let your heart be your guide, and come join me in a program if you're so inclined. And I love you. Thank you. Thanks, Doria.
Okay, well, I was just going to say that you guys, Dr. Liddy and I have created a new platform, and we're going to be doing an experience with a group of people for 3 days online, and it's called Money, Law, and You Experience. And you can just see the one page. It's called Money, Law, and You Experience.com. We're still working on it, but you can get a little preview so that you will see about it. So it's very exciting. I met Dr. Liddy in Puerto Rico a couple of weeks ago, and the only thing she kept saying was, "You're so small." I think she thought I was going to be this giant,
See, now, Doria, I've got to jump in and got to tell everyone, doesn't Doria show up as this amazingly Amazonian, beautiful, powerful woman? And she's so teeny. It was wonderful. I love her.
For those of you that know me, I'm not that teeny, right, Marcia? Right, Sherry Clark, Carol Hodges? I'm not so tiny, but I'm mighty. Anyway, it was so wonderful. We met, and Dr. Liddy is like, she's the Amazon. She's got this big arm. She used to be a bodybuilder. Can you believe that? I love it that Dr. Liddy and I met at the Top Talent, and that's what I was forgetting to say. If you can put toptalentjv.com, Connie, because it's coming up. And, that's one of my favorite programs. It's not this Monday, it's the following Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, with David Fagan and Isabel. And it starts at 8 a.m. California time. So sorry for you guys down under, but it's worth if you want to stay awake. And I love that program. So for those of you that want to create JV, it's completely different than, of course, Money and You. It is about creating joint venture partnerships, and it's free. And you can just put whoever refer you there, or myself, and all that. So we'd love for you to be there. And then Paolo, anything you would like to share? You have a crypto. This is another. Paolo has so many gifts, and one of them now, he has launched a crypto course. Which, by the way, Paolo, I keep having conversations with people around my age, and they are, oh my God, so old, if I may say this, in their thinking. They really think that crypto is a passing thing that is going to disappear tomorrow. It's like bell bottoms, they're gonna pass. And I keep sharing with them that people really need to get educated on crypto. And if anything, blockchain, the whole conversation, because you really need to get educated. Not that you need to invest in it or anything, but you need to have an understanding of why this works and why whole countries, are dependent on it. But anyway, Paolo, thank you so much for doing a course. You're teaching people on learning about it?
Yeah, so the idea is, just in a very nutshell, for people that don't know about crypto, the money in your wallet is a social agreement between you and the government. Does not have an intrinsic value. If an alien came down from space and you wanted to exchange goods and you gave them $100 US dollar bill, they would say, what is this? I cannot burn it, I cannot heat it. It doesn't have an intrinsic value whatsoever. Cryptos is the same, doesn't not have an intrinsic value, but is an agreement between you and other people, removing in a way the government. That's why there is so much legislation that is going on. But the idea of cryptocurrency is an exchange of value or a social agreement between you and another person, another part of the planet, US dollars can be printed. Any currency, fiat currency can be printed. And as you all know, the more you print money, the less is the value of that money. With cryptocurrency is a set amount. So the more people become interested in Bitcoin and the adoption curves rises up, the more people will get into the market and buy this cryptocurrency so that they can have a relationship with another person. So I personally started investing in cryptocurrency in 2015, started trading and investing actively in 2017, went through the bear market, the 4-year cycle, and transformed a 5-figure account in a 7-figure account. And because there is a lot of people that have been struggling and unfortunately lost their lives because of the money that they lost, I made the decision to do a course that for the first time on the planet, people can actually pay for the course if they do voluntary charitable work. So if people do 36 hours of charitable work wherever they're on the planet, they get the course for free. I get nothing, but we are creating more light. We are creating more joy, and we are making a collaboration. So there is that option. Or if people want, any person that comes from Fridays with Doria or any of your communities, there is also half price. Because the idea is not to make money. I mean, the money is good, but the money is more about having meat in the game so that people can learn. So that's what the crypto course is, and I'll add it in the chat. Feel free to communicate. I post every day in about 8 different communities, and I've been helping people as much as I can with all the knowledge. Pretty much everything that I can give for free, I give for free, because it's all about. It's like if we're living in an ocean of energy. It's all about raising up the vibration of this ocean of energy. And the more our thoughts, the more our words, and the more our action raise up, the more, the entire world can become more full of light and compassion and joy.
Thank you, Paolo. Let's give him a big hand. Woo! Thank you. Woo, Paolo. And so very quickly, just to make it very clear, that if you cash in any cryptocurrency, it's just like any other capital gains. You have to pay taxes on it. And believe me, you may not believe in crypto, but the IRS does. The US government does, and most governments on the planet do. So they have very clear rules of the game. Anytime you have any kind of capital gains, that's what it is considered, you have to pay taxes on it. So you may be able to do all kinds of things in it, but just remember that so that I don't have to visit you through some bars between you and I. So thank you so very much. And yes, you need to say something, Paolo?
Yes, one way to avoid pay capital gain taxes and enjoying your cryptos is doing what you're doing with your investment properties or properties. You get a small loan, you withdraw the equity from your cryptocurrencies so that you can enjoy and pay bills and all the rest. And by withdrawing the equity from your cryptocurrency as a small loan, and I would recommend not more than 15% because the crypto market is very volatile, you can pay for bills, you can go on vacation, you can do all the things that you want. And because you're not selling your coins, it does not become a taxable event. So in that way, you can enjoy your crypto profits without paying any taxes.
Okay, I didn't say that, he did.
Of course, you will pay taxes when you sell it, but it's just about enjoying your crypto profits.
I just don't recommend any advice. Everybody clear, Doria Cordova is not involved. She's not knowledgeable. She's not involved in any investments. I was just saying what Dr. Levy has taught me to say, right? My attorney is in the house. Anyway, thank you so very much. And Carol Hodges, make sure that you put information. We were talking about you a little earlier on your new book that we'll support when it comes out. So with that, let's go ahead and ask some questions, and then we'll all go over to, I have to do a little interview after this, but I will be going to the 1%ers room. Who has questions? Charles, go ahead. One hand went up. Go ahead, Charles.
I want to read 2 things. One, I want to reinforce what Paolo just said. Look at this, 50 million 50 million, real cash. Can you see that, everybody?
Yes.
Money. Look, this is exactly what Paolo was talking about. This is Yugoslav dinars that was ceased to be currency, but 50, this is 500,000. Look, so that's how meaningless this is. So it's a great reminder. I carry this when I do my seminars. This means nothing. This is a representation. But to reinforce, Rex, thank you for sharing your wisdom. One thing that I have found had a profound impact on people and for all of us, if between my hands is the entire human knowledge of everything, the smartest person amongst us and on the planet knows this much. And Rex, you said, control your thinking. I say, guard your thoughts. So the smartest person knows a tiny amount out of all there is to know. And when we realize that, then we don't beat ourselves up for not knowing something. So in broad terms, we're all idiots. We know a little bit about something. And then that helps to build this whole issue of confidence and going, wow, I don't need to know it all. I've got my friends at Money and You, and I've got my friends through here, DC. So, you know, why I don't need to know it all. We've got all the resources here. That's the thought I wanted to share.
Beautiful thought.
So what was the question?
Oh, I was just sharing those two ideas.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so very much. So basically you were just confirming my new definition of wealth, which is access. True wealth is having access to cash, access to people, access to resources, access to great product and services, right?
Look at all the solutions in this room.
Yes, and there's a lot of wealth in here. Thank you so very much. All right, was it Shireen that was first or T? You guys popped up, I couldn't see you. Who was first? Go ahead, Shireen. Go ahead.
Thank you, Dame Doria. Hello, Rex.
Hello.
And I bought your book. Thank you very much. I'm learning a lot from it. Thank you.
Thank you. You sent me a photo. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. And my question is, you mentioned a few times that you have to master your basics. And you mentioned one, which is learn to master your thoughts and feelings. Is there any other basics that we need to be aware of? Thank you.
Yes and no. If you realize that your thinking creates your reality and you master your thinking, or you guard your thinking from negativity and you master your thinking so that you're more powerfully positive or optimistic, then your feelings follow suit. And if your feelings and your thinking is high, and you're vibing high, you're increasing your vibratory rate, then you are broadcasting wonderful vibrations throughout the universe. And if you're broadcasting wonderful vibrations throughout the universe, because what we are really are broadcasting and receiving station for everything that's out there. And so when you're vibrating at a higher rate, you're able to create better, you're able to think better, you're able to respond more openly to the universe, and you're able to receive better. So you're able to behave better, and when you're able to behave better, you get better results. So it starts with your thinking, and this is where I caution people, because in other words, it's like if I said you only have one thing to do, and that is learn how to control your thinking. Somebody said, but what else would I need to do? And I say, figure out the first one, and that will tell you what the second one will be. But if you don't master the first one, the second, third, and fourth one don't matter. So, you know what I mean? And so it really starts with how we think, because it's how we think about ourselves. It's how we think about others. It's how we think about the world. And most people live as victims of circumstance. For example, they look at their checkbook and they realize they don't have enough money in it and they feel bad. So what's happening? They look, they see the world, they're outside of themselves, their checkbook says minus or not enough money, and then they react to that. So they're allowing their checkbook or their circumstances or their event or their situation to dictate how they feel. And you don't want to be at the dictation of circumstances or of your checkbook. You want to be able to look at your checkbook, whether there's a plus or minus balance, and go, I am wealthy and I create wealth wherever I go, and I am a rich person and I can do whatever I want. And not just, it's not having the belief and not doing anything about it. It's having the belief that actually has you act in ways that bring that about for you. So it's not about having more hope or wishing or wanting. It's about learning that I'm going to use the word create. You create everything, but I'm also going to stop there and say, we don't create anything. Everything's already been created. You know, physics tells us that energy can't be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed. So what you do is you transform your thinking so that you become the kind of person who can transform the invisible, the things that you want, into the visible, that you create like a sculptor does. You know, the sculptor, the artist looks, and I think Doria mentioned it earlier, or somebody did, you know, the David, you know, the sculpting, you know, you chisel away everything that isn't the statue of David, or you start with a concept and then you gather your tools and you gather your clay and you put it all together, and then you come out with this great piece and you realize that you've created that. You know, that, you know, you actually haven't created it. You've actually transformed it from being a lump of clay into something else. We call it creation because, for lack of a better term, you know, it's creativity, but we're not actually making, you know, anything. We're transforming it. So learning how to transform your thinking will transform your being. That's why my program is Change Your Thoughts and Transform Your Life, because that's exactly what we need to learn to do most importantly.
Thank you.
I hope that helped.
I'm sure it did. It helped me. Thank you so much. All right, T, go ahead.
Greetings. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you, Dame Doria and Rex, for your shares. And I agree with you that the pandemic is a bittersweet opportunity for us to all reconnect to that universal energy of love, and to suspend that morbidly ambitious, you know, capitalistic impulse that has been driving us. But that's not really why I'm not able to get the video going. I try to get better connection and drive away.
It's okay, T. It's okay. Keep going.
Okay. So I noticed you're an actor, and I met Dame Doria the other night in Clubhouse, and it was this unique synchronicity moment. I had this unique opportunity of growing up in Wisconsin, where they had integrated EST into the professional theater training program. And I was wondering if you'd heard of that program, or if your philosophies now inform your approach to acting.
Yes, and my approach to acting informs my philosophies now.
Ooh, that's pretty cool. Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
I was fortunate. I was blessed with, I mean, I studied with a lot of the very best, great teachers in Hollywood, you know, in acting, but one of the most profound teachers that I had was a woman named Lillian Chauvin. She passed away a number of years ago, but she became a mentor and a friend until she died. And I knew her from the time I was about 18 years old. So I'm 66, and I was probably, you know, 58 when she passed away. But she had an awareness about acting with the idea that, you know, you're not supposed to get so caught up in a character that it screws up your life. And, you know, a lot of the method acting, you know, was always, and I've done those programs too, but it was all about pain and suffering and being raw and real and experiencing the emotion so that you could capture that on the screen or on the stage. And she was like, you need an on and off switch so that when they say cut, you're not the asshole. And for what I realized, excuse my language, by the way, but I realized that, you know, if I play a serial killer, and I played lots of killers and bad characters, I don't for a second take that off the sound stage, you know. And so even like Daniel Day-Lewis, who's one of the most, you know, prolific method actors who stays in character for months at a time, if he's Abraham Lincoln offset and onset, you know, there's a certain part of him that goes, I'm not really Abraham Lincoln because I'm getting in a car. You know, you got to know that there's a little bit of BS in some of this stuff, but people use it to try and get into it. If they play a serial killer like Charlie Manson, they're not out, you know, ordering people to slay other people. Well, hopefully. And so you want an on and off switch with what you do. You want to have the presence of mind. You also, you want it to be fun. You know, you want it to be enjoyable. You don't want to agonize over everything. And so I come from meditation and hypnosis and acting. I was acting from the time I was 3 years old and dancing and doing acrobatics. My parents put me in classes. And during my teenage years, it was an immense struggle and it was a difficult thing. And I realized this is something that it's creative expression. It shouldn't be, you know, hard. It shouldn't be difficult. It should be freeing. It should be, you know, something that you're contributing, not suffering for. And so this woman was just a remarkable woman. So it's informed what I do now, and and it's also what I do now informs acting. No, I was not familiar with it. You said it was in Wisconsin?
Yeah, it's Jewel Walker and Margie Walker and Sandy Robbins, Sandy Robbins later went and branched off into Landmark Forum, which I thought was fascinating. But when they were teaching acting, they had a mentor program for the conservatory actors. Ted Danson was in this program, but they had integrated this revolutionary style of character and concept development based on Est, and it was controversial. And Sandy later left the program and took it to Delaware. But now he's like, you know, really very involved in Landmark Forum or Landmark. So, but it was all based in conservative theater.
Well, can I ask, was it based in schools or was it based in like conservatory training for theater here?
It was based at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee in their graduate program, and they had a unique program where you had to sign up for 3 years in the program, and Tadashi Suzuki was an instructor, but they had integrated Est into their whole system, which was so foreign to the theater community, and it was very controversial. But there was 12 young performers. I was one of them who had gotten introduced to this, like, you know, remove all your, you know, knowledge of self. And as a kid, you know, so I had no idea what was informing me at that time. And then I recently reached out to Margie Walker, who started the program with Jewel Walker and Sandy. And I was like, what were you guys teaching us? Because we're all very similar from growing up together in that program. And so then I go in a clubhouse and then I meet Dame Doria, who speaks about Est. And I was like, wow, this is electrifying. The synchronicity is just consistent.
Well, that's so beautiful. I mean, I want to talk to you more about that. Is there any legacy of the program left in Wisconsin? Do you know?
There isn't, but there is in Delaware. They got booted out of Wisconsin for the controversy, and they went to Delaware. But there are little branches of the community all over the world in theater. But Ted Danson came out of the program.
Oh, that's cool. That's very cool. You know, I mean, this is kind of like what I brought to NLP. I brought the acting into NLP, you know, in the early days, and the lot of different exercises and the aspect of having fun and play, where at the early time in the late 70s, early 80s, it was all very therapeutic and everybody would sit knee to knee and look at meaningful in each other's eyes and try and notice responses and squeeze each other's knees and, you know, have all these kind of, you know, which was fine, but you know, and then I floated. I trained for many years, and then I opened my own institute in the early 90s, and said, you know, enough. You know, NLP is not just for therapy. It's not just for business. It's for personal transformation, and people want to transform. And in order to transform, they had to have not just learn therapeutic tools, they had to have an experience of transforming. And so they would come in and we would do all sorts of, and we still do, but I mean, all sorts of exercises that were designed to have them wake up and not just learn how to be a neurolinguistic programmer. So NLP is one of many things that I do. And it's about the whole person. It's about health and happiness and in mind, body, spirit, and feelings and everything we do. So this is I'm glad to hear about that. That's really exciting. There's so much to be offered, and so many people offer great things, and oftentimes it's misunderstood. I mean, we were laughed at. I was ridiculed in a book because I said, you know what we do? We actually make the placebo effect conscious. We deliberately try to help people overcome their things by using the placebo effect. You can't not use the placebo effect. It's always operating. It's either the placebo effect or nocebo effect. So when and I was a short story when we were interviewing OGBYNs for my wife, my then wife, for our first child. My mom sent me a magnetic bracelet because I was having some problems with my tendons, and she sent this magnetic bracelet. So we'd go to one doctor and he'd say, "What is that?" I go, "Oh, it's a magnetic bracelet." He goes, "Oh, those things don't work. You know, that's stupid." I'm like, "You're a doctor. Aren't you supposed to be saying, cool, you know?" I mean, in other words, why are you poo-pooing it? You know, because it's not your educational background. So the guy that actually became our baby doctor said, "What's that?" I said, "Oh, my mom sent me this magnetic bracelet." He goes, "How's it working?" I said, "Well, I think it's working well." He goes, "That's great. Just keep telling, just wear it and let me know how it's done." And my wife and I looked at each other with, I think this is the guy we want. He's open-minded. He didn't insult us or anything. So it was a big lesson in how we stay open and how we invite things in rather than to be cynical and dismiss them.
Thank you so much. Thank you both.
Thank you.
I was sneezing, so I muted myself. Okay, here we go. And so I just wanted to, I think we're complete and we need to go to the 1%ers group. So thank you so much. Rex, anything you'd like to say as we complete? We want to really, really thank you. You know how we like to complete. Everybody will be coming by and, you know, hooting and houting and saying thank you. But anything else you would like to say before we complete this Fridays with Doria?
It's an honor and a privilege to be here with all of you who are here tonight and those who will watch in the future. It's just a real privilege. I love Doria. I've known her this year, and I feel so connected with her and so strong about her and what she does. So this for me is a blessing, it's an opportunity, and I enjoy it immensely. And as a result, I get to meet you and I get to interact with you. And I hope that I can get the chat and stuff like that so that we can all stay in touch, and that my information will get in there somehow. So, and again, it's rexsikes.com. And if you get my book, take a picture of it. If you're into it and it was beautiful, and rate and review it in Amazon, that would be great. And let's stay in touch and let's do some things together. It's a beautiful, I always think of myself as a tour guide. All I want to do is go, hey, look at the waterfall. Oh, see those pretty flowers. Oh, see the birds in the sky. There's so much about this world to enjoy. Let's just all enjoy it together. And I thank you for being part of this tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's everybody unmute, come by and say goodbye to Rex. Aloha.
Bye, Rex. Thank you.
Bye, Rex.
Thank you
very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rex.
Aloha.
Thank you.
Well done, Rex.
Thank you. Thank
Don't
you.
forget to
everyone.
save the chat. Save the chat.
Save the chat. Yes. For those of you that are interested. Okay, we're going to be finishing off here. Bye, everyone. You know I don't like to hang up on you guys. You guys have
Save
to
the whales.
Thank you, Bonita.
Night.
Thank you, team. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sherry Clark. We love you. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Aloha. Thank you. See you soon. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.